So, Oisches. Oisches. So in Oisches, the Rebbe will continue to discuss that level of Anon Nosiv Malka, as the Rebbe explained, that even the highest levels of Atzilus and higher does not interest him, which is the levels of the Duchsin, the various different, the three levels mentioned in the Medrash, which hints, the Rebbe says, to the three levels Hoyu Imoy, which are with the king, because they are in the Shulchan Hamelech. So even those, and it take the Pikeach doesn't want. He says, Anon Nosiv Malka, I'll take the king. So we can say She'inyan zeh, this love that we're talking about, Anon Nasiv Malko, who ha'avod demili bashamayim v'imchol ichafatzti. That's that love of what is there in the heavens, and anything that with you I don't want, which means he only wants Hashem, not anything in the heavens, and not anything that is with you. Ukilosh and Admur Hazokin, as the language of the Alter Rebbe, Ich will ze gornist. See, I want nothing. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. I don't want your heaven. Ich will nicht dein Olam Habo. I don't want your world to come. Chulu. Ich will mer nicht as dich allein. All what I want is just you yourself. He just wants Hashem himself. That's the level of Ava Mili Bashamayim, V'im Cholech Chafatzti. The Hagam Shebehagiluyim Shebegan Eden. For although the revelations that are in Gan Eden, Umikol Shekein Hagiluyim the Olam Haba, and for sure the Giluyim of the world to come. Hem Giluyim Nailim B'Yosher, those are very great revelations. The Alter Rebbe had an appreciation. He grasped. He knew this greatness. Therefore, and still he said, "Hasoga mitis ba'ofen sha'aseichel nisachad im hamuskol." It was by the Alter Rebbe a true grasping in the way that the intellect united the seichel with the idea, with the muskel. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, even though the revelations of Gan Eden and Elam Haba, the Alter Rebbe has a grasping, and he really had a true understanding in them, and yet he says, Afal Pikain, and still, he doesn't want Loi Bahagiluyim de Gan Eden, Veloi Bahagiluyim de Elam Haba. He doesn't want the revelations that are in Gan Eden in heaven, Veloi Bahagiluyim de Elam Haba, not the revelation in the world to come. All that he wants is the essence, is Hashem himself. Dich alein, Hashem alone. Yes, lohisib, we can add iker hapichus bazeh she'eina roitze baduchsin v'chulu. So we can say, what is the wisdom in the fact that he doesn't want the duchsin, which are the madreges, shebiseder hishtalshul, ha'ishtalshul. Those are levels within the order of ishtalshulus. V'gam shalamayla mehishtalshulus, so that are higher from ishtalshulus. What is the wisdom? Who? The hagam shahasfiris, meloshin sfiris ubehirus. For although, because we call them spheres, spheres means, comes from the language, it's clear, Evan Sapin, it's clear and it's beautiful, which means that they are on a level that they are revelations, ein mastirin al ein sof. They don't hide In them, there is clarity, there is shine, and they don't have it yourself. The bahashpoa shenim sheches al yidei hasviris, because in the hashpoa that comes through the sviris, through the hakelim, nira begilui, you can see openly that it's not the kelim that are shining, that it's the Ein Sof. They don't block the Ein Sof. Nira begilui, we see openly, that the flow comes not from the spheres themselves, God forbid. The Ein Sof gives the flow through the spheres. They don't block, but they become the vehicle through which the Ein Sof uses to mashpia through them. So this is even in the kelim of Atzilus. And even more so, it's in the lights of Asfiris. Through them is revealed the light which is higher than them. That the lights that are higher than Atzilus come in revelation through the Oiris of Atzilus. When we talk, though, this is within Atzilus. And how much more so when we talk about Madrege Shalamaylam Atzilus, by those steps and levels which are a bit higher than Atzilus. Shal Yidei Ha'oir Mizgala Kol Ma She'efsher Lihizgalus Mehamor. Through the light, all that is able to be revealed from the luminary comes through. It's all there. Seems like powerful, profound. Everything is there in the oil, and yet he says he doesn't want it. He doesn't want them. He wants the king. Ano nosiv malka. I am going to take the king, just the king himself. And the Rebbe says now, the language, he says, ich will nicht dein Gan Eden, ich will nicht dein, which means they're yours. Even at the level which they're yours, they reveal Hashem himself, and yet he doesn't want that. This is also the specific language that the Rebbe uses. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden, ich will nicht dein Olam Haba. I don't want your heaven, I don't want the world to come. He uses the word dein. Even though that Gan Eden Olam Haba Haim, Dein Gan Eden, Dein Olam Haba, they're your Gan Eden Haba. Besides the fact, in addition, that when we're talking about the revelation of Gan Eden Olam Haba, besides being high revelations, they also bring the entire light down from above. In addition, the they are very elevated and great revelations. And on the top of that, everything that is able to be revealed from the luminary comes through them. And still he doesn't want them. And all that he wants, he wants Dichalein, he just wants Hashem himself. So the Rebbe is going to explain that this high level that we're saying, Anon Nosiv Malka, that even the levels of great Kedusha of Atzilus and higher he doesn't want. This is the level of the level of Imchalot Chafatzti. We can connect this to the simple meaning of Anon Nosiv Malka in the Pashto saying, you're just wanting the king, not discussing, not the Duchshin and the Istralitutin. Tes Vishloimar, the Pirush Zebanon Nosiv Malka. This interpretation in the meaning of I am going to take the king שאין נוירויצה בהדרגס די קדושה שלמיילו, אלא בהעצמוס. He does not want any of the levels of kedusha of above, but he only wants the atzmos. He wants Hashem himself. So this interpretation that we just presented, and also the pirush, the interpretation that no nasiv malka kipshuter, meaning I take the king, she'ein oived la'koichav mazolos, like the Medrash says that he chose Hashem, and they don't worship the stars and the constellations, shayochim zelozeh, have a connection one to another. These highest level, the lowest level have a connection. Yuvan zeh al pi hayadua, this will be understood based upon what we know. This level of Ava, of there's nothing in the heavens, that he doesn't want revelations of Gan Eden, but he only wants Atzmos. Notwithstanding, he's choosing something in Gan Eden, he remains in his existence. And there will be to him, he'll grasp and he'll delight in godliness. Nenim, as we say, they enjoy the Shekhinah. So, what is he refusing? He's refusing Gan Eden. In Gan Eden, he will be an entity. He will delight. He will understand. Why is he giving this up? But on the other hand, to contrast that, what happens when what he wants is the revelation of the essence of the Ein Sof, is battle mimadrigosa. He's going to be negated from his level. He's going to be non-existent because of the power of the Atzmos of Ein Sof. And yet, he chooses to be mevatel himself rather than being his delight in Yeshus. Mikol mokim. Mikibon shagilu de Gan Eden raka ora bilvad. But since the revelation of Gan Eden is only a shine, say this is Ziv HaShekhinah, it's not the Atzmos, which has no comparison at all to the essence of Ein Sof, so he chooses, therefore, the main and not the top. So what happens if a person is not smart, not a pikeach, but he actually goes and he chooses the levels, the Gan Eden, because he wants to remain an entity? For this understood, the kasher who boicher b'hagiluim the Gan Eden, that when he chooses the Gilun of Gan Eden, shehem kiloi choshiv legabe atzmus Ein Sof, which are considered of no value relative to the atzmus Ein Sof, bishvil halegarmei shaloi, for his own self, to benefit himself and to his understanding and for his elevation, for his legarmei, is the lotion of Lekutei Torah. So that he remains in his existence and he should be able to enjoy the ray of the Shekhinah. So then it's possible that from that, to be interested in the Lagarmei and his self, his enjoyment, it's about him. Through many involvement, it evolves to such a level that even though he knows that the flow of the 70 nations, going back to the simple meaning, extends and comes from a place of death, Kenal Sivhei, I said earlier in the end Sivhei. He will want that hashpah more than the flow that he gets from kedusha, so that he can have a flow, a whole lot of flow, because you get it, even though it comes from books. So this is according to the level, knowing that the Kechavim Mazolas come from the level of Tuma. But the same thing is that Rebbe spoke about earlier, the two levels, either they make a mistake. This was an additional level, that just because it comes from the level of Tuma, but the Rebbe spoke about the Kechavim Mazolas, the two mistakes, either they believe that the Kechavim Mazolas have Bechira, or they believe they're totally in charge, as the Rebbe spoke at less earlier. Similar is also as it relates to the mistake, to those who actually serve, worship the Kechavim Mazolas. They make them important, they consider them to be an entity. Either in one of the two ways, either the mistake is it comes from them, Hashem has given over the world to them, running it, and therefore they are the ones that actually running it, that comes from them. Or even in the lesser level of mistake, in which they think that they have the choice to want to be mashpia or not to mashpia. So if you start with the legarbe, even in the highest level that you want for yourself, you are able to come down to the level to want from Tuma, because you get more, or making the mistake of the Kechavim Mazolas. Because the fact that this person wants the revelations of Gan Eden and not the Esav Ein Sof, that essentially means that he's giving importance, credence to something which is outside of Atzmus. So then from this can come through a multitude of evolution, that to give them importance, the Kechavim Mazolas, because you're giving credence to something besides Hashem, let it be Gan Eden. But anytime you start with giving credence to something else, making it important, it can deteriorate until it'll come down to the level of giving importance to Kechavim Mazolas. Sheyesh lahem either bechira b'hashpa'asim, either the lower level, the higher level, I guess, is that they have a choice whether they should give the flow, and it's their decision. The Yisera Mizu, and the more than that, the lower level, but the Shashpoim Hematzmon Chaz v'Sholom. That God forbid they actually are in charge. They give the Hashpah. V'yesh lahoisim, we can add the Gamkshir, it's certainly be Gan Eden, who be Peshu Gan Eden Shalach Kodesh Baruch Hu. Even when he wants the Gan Eden, is because it's Hashem's Gan Eden, Dein Gan Eden. So Gam Oz, even then, Efshar Sheyovim Mizeh Hatos Sheyesh Lohem, this can also lead you to the mistake that the Yeshlam Lakechov Mazol is Bechira Lahashpia. They have the choice to be Mashpia. V'ad Lahatos Shashpo Hi Mehem Atzma, to the extent later on that the mistake that they actually give the flow. But you can say, but here he's saying Dain. He chooses Dain Gan Eden, but it's still Hashem Gan Eden. How does he make a mistake that they have a choice, or the Kechavim Mazolas, or that they're totally in charge? But the Rebbe says, yes, it is connected. Why? even according to the mistake of the Ummah Sha'ilom, and the one that worship Chov Mazolos. HaKoyach sheyesh lem lahashpia. Over there too, we say the power that they have to give, to be mashpia, it's not their own, it's not inherent to them. It's Hashem appointed them for that. Kenal Siv Gimel, as said before in Siv Gimel, so they know. So this is Bedugmas Dain Gan Eden. It's still yours. It's the Eibishter. The Eibishter made them. The Eibishter gave them the koyach, and therefore, even by saying Dain Gan Eden, you can deteriorate to that. And in order there should be no place at all that I will take the duchsin, that is the way by arousing himself. If you can't do it fully, at least of it somewhat al kolponim. Which everybody has the power to do a little bit of it. Maybe the whole level of Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden, to want only Atzmus, that's the Alter Rebbe, but every Yid can do a little bit of it. So, Shaloi Lirtzos Afilu Dai Gan Eden, not to want even your Gan Eden. Elo Ki'im Medni Tasdir Alein, only to want Hashem himself. And that's something that everybody should do in order to protect them from the mistake that may evolve through many involvement into believing in the Kechavim Mazolas that they have some powers. Ois Yud. So previously, the Rebbe explained how in Ois Tes, how there is a connection to the idea that if the idea of Anon Nosiv Malka, wanting to the Atzmus, to the idea of Anon Nosiv Malka Kipshutoy, which means that choosing, if a person chooses not the king, but the Duchsin, all the other Inyonim, that means he does it for himself. Eventually, this leads to the ideas of the Avodas Kechavim Mazolos, to give importance to that. You're giving importance. If Garmei, if yourself, Metzias, has a credence, it can deteriorate all the ways to the lowest level, as the Rebbe brings down. In Ois Yud, the Rebbe is going to continue. The same thing is also in the level of love that the Yid chooses Anon Nosiv Malcolm. That this is associated to the level of just wanting Ein Sof. So the Medrash, the Poshet, Anon Nosiv Malko, to the Ava of Mili Bashamayim, as the Rebbe has explained earlier. Let's look inside. Yud. Yesh lahoisi biur, and there is to add more explanation bahashaychus, in the connection that no nosiv malka that we learn in the Medrash, that the Pikeach says, I am going to take the king leha'ava, to the love that the Rebbe associated earlier, that this is the same idea of the love, the mili bashamai, that there is nothing in the heaven. What is there in the heavens to satisfy him? That he wants the Ein Sof. The Rebbe brings this behagdim by introducing she'iker ha'inyan davidus kechavim mazolizu. What is the main idea of the worshiping of the stars and the constellation? is that they consider something which is merely an intermediary, and they think that this is main. That's what Avedis Kechavim and Mazolis is, thinking an intermediary, making it the main. What is in both aspects? First of all, thinking that the Kechavim Mazolis themselves are something, and also thinking that what they are mashpia, Gashmi is something in itself. Both as it connects to the stars and the constellation. The truth is, they are merely an intermediary. They're a garzin, they're like the metal. Sha'al yodom nimsheches ha'ashpa. Through them, the flow extends. But they're not have no say, and they don't do anything, but it just goes through. It's like the metal with which the carver digs, but the metal, the shovel, has no part independently. He's just used by the chaytzev. So the same thing is, really, the Kechavim Mazolos have no entity. They're just an intermediate through which the hashpah goes through. But those who worship them, they think that they are a main. That's as far as the Kechavim Mazolos themselves, and also what they accomplish. And also as it connects to the physical flows that comes through them. He quoted before the pasuk, we make it shamayim. We make it tvu is the sweetness, how they are mashpia and influencing in the Gashmis. Shahashpos and Gashmis, the truth is, why do we have Gashmis? It's not for the sake of Gashmis itself, but rather it's for the sake of utilizing the Gashmis in the service of Hashem. Shahashpos and Gashmis is and also as it connects to the physical flows that comes through the intermediaries, through the Kechavim Mazolos. The reason why there is a physical flow is so that we use them in the service of Hashem. But those who worship the they consider the physicality to be made. That's why they want the flow that comes from the other side. They want a lot of physical flow, blessings, physicality. Kinal Sivdal that said before. That's why they'd rather take it from the Le'umazeh, which gives them a lot, versus coming from Kedusha, which would be a mitzumtzum dike, would be a limited amount. So they want to get the greater amount. So they don't really need the Gashmis for Avodas Hashem. They're just interested in the Gashmis itself. So that's the idea of Avodas Kechavim Mazolis. That means to serve Kechavim Mazolis is to make intermediary, and what the intermediary provides an ikr, so that they are become important and the main. And that's why they worship the Kechavim Mazolis. But in a way, the same thing is in all Giluyim, in all Ahavas. The Ava of Mili Bashamayim negates all the Avas, even of the Giluyim, because even the greatest Giluyim are also providing are not the main. The Giluyim are just there to reveal the Kavanah. Let's look at that. Hine Hagiluyim, when we talk about revelations, which is the levels of Ava of Giluyim, not in the level of Mili Bashamayim, to just want Ein Sof, but all other Avas, all other Giluyim, revelations, Gam HaGiluyim Heim Chinailim, even the most elevated revelations that there is from Hashem, Hataklisu Loi Bahem Atzon. The goal is not in the Giluyim. Beheim rak emtsoi shal yodom tushlam hakavona hapnim is the dire betachtoini. There are merely intermediaries, like we were talking about the Chav Mazolos. All Giluyim are intermediaries. Shal yodom, through them, through these Giluyim, tushlam hakavona hapnim is the dire betachtoinim. The ultimate inner intent of having a dwelling place in this world, in the Tachtoinim, gets fulfilled through the Giluyim, but it's not for the Giluyim itself. And therefore, when a person does not have the love of Mili Bashamayim Ein Sof, but when he wants the Giluyim v'loy b'Ein Sof and not Ein Sof, I know that is the same concept. He considers them to be main. So then this allows for placing, can deteriorate that he can also consider the intermediaries, which is Hakichav Mazolos Vashef Hagashmi. The Kechavim Mazov and the physical flow, that also may. So it turns out that there is a direct connection of the love of Mili Bashamayim to Anonosim Malka, because if the person wants not Ein Sof, not Mili Bashamayim, but he wants Giluyim, that means that he makes Giluyim, which are just there for the main Kavanah to Dir B'Tachtonim, but not in themselves, makes it for an Iker, which is similar to the Avedis Kechavim Masolos, which make the Gashmis for an Iker and make the intermediates for Iker. So this we can say. As the Medrash brings out that the Umas Ha'olam, some of them worship the sun, some the Levana, but the Yisrael, Yidden just serve Hashem, who but now we connected this to the spiritual level of Giluyim with an Ein Sof. Is ki hashoyresh the umas ha'olam hu mechitzonius haratzon, because the shoyresh, the root of umas ha'olam, they come from the external part of the ratzon. What does it mean, external part of the ratzon? Meaning, sheroitze be'ezadovar b'shvil inyan achar. You want something not for itself, but for something else. You want this because of what this gives you, but it's not the thing itself. Umas ha'olam are from chitzonis haratzon. The Eibishter doesn't want the Umas ha'olam for themselves. So that's the root of Umas ha'olam, not in themselves. That level of external ratzon, which is the source of the Umas ha'olam, The Eibishter externally wants Umas Ha'olam, not Pnimis, because their want is for something else, not themselves. So this level of Chitzonis Rotzen, as it is a Solom Ha'olam, he be'oifun she'ein nirgash bo sheharotzen hu b'shvil inyan achad. But it's in a way that in that level you don't feel that it's for something else. Elo shezeh gufahu hatachlis. But the feeling, the sense of that chitzonis rotzen, you don't sense that it's chitzonis rotzen. You think that it feels like pnimis rotzen. It feels that the tachlis is in the umas ha'olam. So that's why from this branches out, from that level of chitzonis rotzen, the shorish of the umas ha'olam branches out of this. That they consider the intermediaries of Kechavim Mazolos to be a main. And that's the reason that they say that they are going L'chama Levana because to them that is a Ikeh. However, but the root of Yidden is from the inner of the Rotzen. Shemitzad Pnimi Yisorotzen Ein Nisin Asmokum Leizin Yanachad. That from the perspective of Pnimi Yisorotzen, that means that's what Hashem wants. There is no allowance for something else because the Tachlis is just in them, is in the Yisrael. That's what the Eibishter wants. L'chein yesh li Yisrael, because the Yidden are rooted in the level of Primis Harotzen, yesh li Yisrael ha'akora. Therefore, they have this recognition sha'kechovim u'mazolis hem rak emtzoi, that the Kichov Mazolos are merely intermediate kigarzim yadachetzim, like a metal in the hand of the carver. And likewise, the flow, the physical flow, is only to serve Hashem, not for itself. And therefore, that's why they're only serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They say, Anon Nosim Malka, taking the king. And it is because that is what Yidden are. Yidden are connected and rooted not to give anything else, but in them themselves. So any level of Giluyim or any level of Kechavim Masolos, that those are all serving at the end of the day for something else. A Yid doesn't choose something that serves for something else. A Yid chooses because he's from Pnimis Rotzen, something which is in itself, which is only the Mili Bashamayim, is only in the Malko, and that's why I know Nosi Malko. So the Rebbe had earlier explained that when the Bechira, that we choose Hashem, is not only in the level of Chelki Avaya Omro Nafshi, the Bechira Mitzad the Neshama, but when that Bechira comes down also into logic, into the seichel, that brings it to a higher level, has an advantage in the neshama to coming to the choosing of Hashem, also when it comes down to logic. ובזה ידע, ובזה יש לבאר גם המיילה בזה. So based on this, we can also explain the advantage in this, the Bechiras Yisrael b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That you didn't choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hiloi rak mitzad harotzin dehaneshama. Shalamayla b'haseichel. It's not just because the neshama wants so in the level that is beyond seichel. Chelki havaya amro nafshi, that it's because of the chelik of the neshama that it's connected to the rotzin of the neshama, which is beyond seichel. Elogam mitzad seichel, but also that it comes down into understanding. Kinnes kalil sivzayin, as we talked about in sivzayin. So how are we going to explain this? Ki zeh shehashodesh di Yisrael hu bipnimiyas hamakif. The fact that the Yidden we say now come from the Pnimis Horotzen, that is the Pnimis Hamakif, which is Pnimis Horotzen. So why are we in the level of Pnimis? Hu mipnei she Yisrael heim bechinas Pnimi. Yidden are the Pnimi, inner. Okay, Yidua the Shoyresh HaPnimi u b'Pnimis Hamakif. That since Yidden, as they come out, are Pnimiyim, so therefore they are rooted in Pnimiyas Makav, as opposed to Umasoilam, which are Chitzonim, and therefore they're Chitzonis Makav. Velochein. And therefore, when is the main advantage? When the Yidden choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Ksharotzin Dahaneshama Shalamaylam Mahaseichel. When you have that desire of the Neshama, which is higher than Seichel, which is Maki, Nimshach Upoyel Gam Baseichel Pnimi, that it extends and it impacts also in the Seichel, which is a Pnimi. Shal Yidei Zed Davke Nimshach me'etzem haneshama, davke, through that extends from the essence of the soul. Pnimis hamaki brings down for as pnimis hamaki. Shemailo gam meharotzen shelmaila ma'aseichel chitzenis hamaki. That way you bring down from the essence of the neshama, which is the pnimius hamakif, when you bring it down in seichel, when the makif impacts pnimius, this seichel, that way you bring down from the essence of the pnimius hamakif, because the pnimius hamakif is higher than the chitzonis hamakif. Shalamaylo gamarotzen shalamaylo ma'aseichel chitzonis hamakif. This is higher than the level of Rotzen, which is higher than Seichel, which is Chitzenes Makif. But this brings down the Pnimius HaRotzen. So we can say the Zeu Gam Mashe Kosuv Chelki Havaye Omra Nafshi. Uses the Lashon Chelki, my portion. That represents Pnimius. When you bring down the makif in a pnimis, that chelki havaya, it is my portion, Hashem is my portion, omra nafsh chelki dafka, my portion. The chelik, the idea of a portion who beginas pnimi, that's a level of pnimis. Ki idua be'inyan, as it's known in the idea when we talk about matoif chelkenu, umanoim goraleinu, hayofi irushaseinu, the three levels. That level of chelkenu, how good is our portion? The chelkenu is the pnimis. Manoim goyrolenu, our lot, mayofi rishusein, our inheritance, those are makif. But chelkenu is our portion, our pnimis. On here we say chelki havaya omra nafshi. Chelki is a language of pnimis. But ilu de b'chiras Yisrael b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what is the advantage when the Yidden choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That choice that the neshama makes mitzad rotz, nimsheches b'pnimius, it comes down in an inner ba'avona ba'asoga, in understanding and grasping. Ube'oifen, in such a way, that this impacts the thought, speech, and action. And that way, this is through this you bring down the pnimiyas hamakif in the machshava dibur in ma'aser, and when you do it in havana v'hasoga, you bring down the pnimiyas hamakif, because that is the pnimiyas. That is what a yid is. A yid is about pnimiyas, and that's his root, and that's what we bring down when it comes down in a pnimiyas, and you get from the level of pnimiyas oros. Should base. So we can also connect this in Mashakosu b'medrash Tehillim ala posik with that the medrash Tehillim says on the posik, Lam natseach leDavid lahaskir. The song that David was singing, Lam natseach, was to remember, to remind. What did he have to remind? So it says in the Medrash, Moshe lemelech shehoya lo yitzoin. This could be a parable. There was a king that had sheep, and he got angry on the sheep. Girish es hatzoin, so he chased the sheep away. Vehitir es hadir, he undid the stable. Vehever es haroya, and he removed the shepherd. Agazman, after a while, change of heart. Konas hatzoin, he gathered the sheep. Ubana es hadir, he rebuilt the stable. Ularoy lehiskir, but he didn't mention. There's no shepherd over there. He doesn't mention about the shepherd. Omar haroya, so the shepherd says, Hare hatzoin muchunosis vadir bonui. The sheep have all been gathered and the stable is built, but I'm not remembered. Nobody remembers the shepherd. So the kach over David l'maylo min hamizbar. So that's what David says above this mizmar. So he wants above this mizmar, and this is mizmar ayin. So in the mizmar before, in mizmar samachtes, he says, Hashem builds Sion and helps Sion and builds the city of Yehuda. So we have the stable, the city is built. They'll sit there and inherit it. And the seed of the servants will inherit. Those who love Hashem's name will rest in there, which means the Yidden will return and fill the cities of Tzion and Nor Yehuda. So you have the sheep are all gathered in. But where's the Roya? Vani, the shepherd, Eini Niskar. David HaMelech, who's the shepherd, he's not mentioned. Lakach, that's why he says, Lam Nasech David Lahaskir, mentioning, reminding about the shepherd. Why does David HaMelech have to remind sort of about the shepherd? Why isn't it an automatic? If you bring back yes, that's what it says in the Medrash. You bring back this you rebuilt everything. The shepherd seems to be automatically remembered. Why do we need a prayer for that? Tzarich love it. So we need to understand. The fact that Hashem gathers in the sheep after he got angry with them. And they were not wanted before Hashem. How does he bring them back? That is because the will to them has been aroused again, which means Hashem again wants them. So why doesn't he mention and remember the Roya by himself without having to pray for it? You need a bakosha a request Lamnatzech David Lahaski to remember the shepherd. But the Rebbe is going to explain now this with what we said before to Mamshich, the Rotzin in Apnimius. The idea is the Rotzin who Makiv. The Rotzin is a level of Makiv. The Efsher Sham Shochas HaRotzin Yiyeh B'chitzonius. That it's possible that the bringing down the Rotzin should be in an external way. And this that David asks that the shepherd should be remembered. The roya who inyan hashpoa pnimis. The roya is an inner flow. The roya feeds. It feeds the sheep in an inner way. As known, the distinction, difference between shepherds and nisichim. Nisichim are makif and roya gives primis. Because as long as we don't have the inner hashpah, which is we don't have the shepherd, the main is missing, the pnimius is missing. When you bring down just the makif itself, the rotzin itself, that's the chitzonis hamakif. But the root of the pnimi is from the inner of the makif. And we need to be mamshich, the main thing from the pnimi is hamakif. Even though when the sheep are gathered, they have everything they need. How can you say they don't have a shepherd? But they're all there, so what's going to happen with the sheep? What do we have to ask for the shepherd? What is the shepherd going to do? So the Rebbe says, we can say what they have is the inner hamshocha that comes through the roya, that's the study of Torah. Since the Torah of our days is considered like nothing relative to Mashiach's teaching, so we're lacking the real pnimius, because everything we have today, yes, we have Torah, but it's a hevel l'gabe Torah shel Mashiach. So we don't have the roya that gives pnimius, the real inyan of roya pnimius. And even though we're talking about gam shamaduber kan hu la'achrei shalakim yeshiyatzi and v'yivna Yehuda shazayiyah begula hasidos, although we're talking about after the time already when Hashem will rebuild in the future redemption, what's going to be the main revelation in the future redemption? That's going to be the revelation of the essence of which is higher than understanding. And therefore, we need the pnimius, David. And this was David's request, David Malka Meshicha. He said, Lamnatseach Mizmar David Lahaskir. So David Malka Meshicha, that we should be able to bring down this higher level than Hasoga into Hasoga. And through this request, this becomes that there should also be the idea of a shepherd. Havonas v'asogas ha'Torah b'taknis hashlemus, to understand and to grasp Torah in its complete wholesomeness. So this is the Rebbe connecting this whole idea of Amshochas Hapanim is b'makiv to explain also the Lamnatzech David Lahaskir, because that is to be mamshich the pnimius, the makiv into the pnimius. That's what David HaMelech was requesting. Gimel. V'apikol hanal yesh levayir hakesher v'hashayches d'bchiris Yisrael b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu u'b'chiris HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. The Rebbe asked earlier, what is the connection? Because it seems that he starts off that Osher, that the level of Osher is because b'chiras Yisrael b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yidden are fortunate because they chose HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But then he ends off by saying the korbanos of Osher was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose the Yidden, or b'chiras HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Yisrael. So what's the connection between Yidden choosing HaKadosh Baruch Hu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu choosing Yidden? And the Rebbe will explain that how are the Yidden able to really choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu? B'pnimiyis, it is because the Eibishter chooses the Yidden. That gives them the koyach for that choosing. Let's look inside. The Bechiras HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Yisrael liyas lo lam segula. That because Hashem, when Hashem chose the Yidden to be to him a treasured nation, which means that Hashem's inner will is in the Yidden, not as an intermediary for something else. Who Hashoirish, that is the root, and that gives the power lebchiras Yisrael b'Kadosh Baruch Hu, so that the Yidden are able to choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem's choosing the Yidden gives them the power for them to choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kenal Baruch, as we said earlier at length, Yisrael boicherim b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the reason why Yidden choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu mipnei sheshorsham u'mipnei misarotzen, is because the Yidden's root is in the inner will of Hashem. That's why the Yidden choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The pnimi sarotzen that they're rooted in, which is the Eibush is rotzen in them, allows them to choose HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a way that that's their pnimi sarotzen. Yes, loima. You can say this, as explained in the Tanya that Rebbe wrote down earlier, that the choosing of the Yidden is in their body. So from them, the Yidden have the koyach. That also in physical matters, should be the revelation of the inner will. Through this, it's felt in them that also the physicality is for the purpose of the service of Hashem. So according to this, we can explain in the end of the Medrash brought down in the beginning of the Maimer. It says that the korbanos of Osher were because of the Bechir of HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Yisrael, but Osher was explained was the Bechir of Yidden in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And over there it says, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Bechir b'Yisrael. Av she'ein ishuran shel Yisrael. Elo al shebachru b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Although he said before is Osher, because what is the fortune of the Yidden is that they chose Hashem, but yet we're bringing the korbanos because of what Hashem chose the Yidden. Ikar ha'ilui the Yisrael who, because the main advantage of the Yidden is loy zeh sheyesh b'hem etzad l'maylo. It's not that which they have from above. Elo zeh shepoilim al yidei avedosam, that which they accomplish through their work. Ubozeh davke, and davke, what they do with their own work. Mashe poilim al yidei avedosam, that they impact through the work. Hu iker hanachas ruach. That's the main delight and pleasantness the Spirit of Hashem enjoys. What? The work. Elo. But in order they should have the power to be able to do their work. That is by bringing down and revealing that Hashem chose the Yidden, and then the Yidden through their work can go ahead and be boicher mitzad their avodah boicher HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That revelation came through the Karbonis. That Asher was brought. The noise of Lahakoyach Shebekol Echad Misrael Mitzad Shorshe Mipnim Yisrosim. In addition to the power that each one possesses, just because they're rooted, he comes from Mipnim Yisrosim. He now the Karbonis the Asher through the Karbonis of Asher. Nimshach koyach ze begilu yoser. That koyach comes out more revealed. V'yesh loymar. So we can say, Da'idei shomar admur hazoken. Just like the Korbonis brought it more relevant, the Alter Rebbe saying brought it more relevant to all of us. Gave us the power to each one of them. Da'idei shel Omar Admor Azokin, by the Alter Rebbe is saying, Ich will mer nit as dich allein. Oh, what I want is just you alone. Especially after this was publicized by the Tzemach Tzedek, Niten HaKoyach HaYoser was given additional power. L'kol echad echad miYisrael, to every one and one of the Yidden, to come to this level of Abba Mili Bashamayim. Especially those who go in his footsteps and his ways, in his pathway. Although the person has many desires, but to the extent he also has this animalistic desires that come from Nefesh HaBahamis. So the person can reach through this saying of the Alter Rebbe and the publicizing of the Tzemach Tzedek of this Madrege, that he can do that all of his desires should be without any heart and heart. That shouldn't be really what he's into, even though he has all wants, but they're not really with his heart, he's not into it. Where is his main rotzin? Would be is to fulfill the intent of the Atzmus Lasis Lo Yizbarach Dire B'Tachtonim, to make for Hashem a dwelling place in the world below. Al Derech, this is similar and somewhat Shoyes Admor Azokin of the Alter Rebbe was by him Sheloi Rotzo Mernit Azdich Alein. All what he wanted is Hashem himself. So he opened up, he brought it down more b'pnimis, just like the Korbanos by Osher, bring it down. The Alter Rebbe's saying helps us that notwithstanding all of our ritzonos, they should be secondary, and our main rotzin would be just Hashem. The Gam ritzonei begashmis, and also what does he want the gashmis? Yibika should be mainly not for the gashmis. Bichdei lasis as a gashmis kele lelakus. Is in order to make the physicality a vehicle, a vessel for godliness. That way, they will also extend to him also a big flow physically. The Maimer Admur Hazoken, as the Alter Rebbe is saying, as the Eibishter git Eden Gashmis, und Eden machen von the Gashmis Ruchnis. Hashem gives Jewish people physicality, and Yidden make of this from the physicality or spirituality. The move on this, you understand. So if the Eibishter gives us a lot of Gashmis, since the Gashmis is given to make Ruchnis, so if we get a lot of Gashmis, we could make a lot of Ruchnis. Yidden do lots of spirituality. Ribu bekatmus, we do a lot, both quantity-wise a lot, ribu beichs, and then a lot in quantity in the ruchnis that we make. Ba'ad l'tachlis hashleim is till the ultimate wholesomeness to the highest levels. Ba'ad shemiskash misagde b'kodesh baruch Hu. To the extent that we tie and we unite with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Yisrael, in love that Yid, the Torah, and Hashem are one. Because this is all done in the way of joy and gladness of heart. In the days that we prepare for the time of our redemption. This also brings down the time of our freedom in actuality. The true and complete redemption through our righteous Mashiach, Mamash.